Unique in Westeros is the Night's Watch, the sworn brotherhood that has defended the wall over the centuries, born in the aftermath of the Long Night, the generation-long winter that brought the others down on the realms of men and nearly put an end to them, if not for the last hero. The history of the Night's Watch is a long one, and it's not known how much of it is actually myth. Tales still tell of the Black Knights of the Wall and their noble calling, but the age of heroes is long done, and the others have not shown themselves in thousands of years, if they indeed did ever exist at all. So, just like much born in the age of heroes, in the wake of the Long Night, it is hard to find the truth in the legend. Year by year, the watch has dwindled. Their own records proved that this decline began even before the age of Aegon the Conqueror, though during brief periods of Targaryen rule, they did see a form of resurgence, especially during the reign of Jaehaerys Targaryen, granting them new lands with the new gift. The king was also fond of sending many who committed crimes or rebelled against him to the wall, seeing the numbers of watchmen grow. But by the time of the main book series, their position is at an all-time low. The Black Brothers of the Watch still guard the realms of men as nobly as they may, but the threat they face no longer comes from the others. Whites, giants, greenseers, wargs, skin changers, or any other monster from children's tales and legend, but rather the barbaric wildlings, armed with stone axes and clubs. Savages, to be sure, but only mortal men, and no match for the disciplined warriors of the Watch. Even when the Watch cannot handle the larger wildling forces, the Starks of Winterfell would assist them. It was not always like this. Whether the legends are true or not, it's plain that the first men and the children of the forest, and even the giants, feared something enough that drove them to begin raising the wall. And this great construction, as simple as it is justly accounted among the wonders of the world. Some have put forward that the earliest foundations were made of stone, but the maesters differ in this view. But regardless, now all that can be seen for a distance of 100 leagues is ice. Nearby lakes provided the material which the first men cut into huge blocks and hauled with sledges to the wall, working them into place one by one. Now, thousands of years later, the wall stands more than 700 feet tall at its highest point, though its height does vary considerably over the hundreds of leagues of its length, as it follows the contours of the land. Once, long ago, serving on the wall was seen as an honour and a sign of selfless devotion to duty, with many knights, honourable men, and nobles taking the black voluntarily. The Night's Watch is now often seen only as a way to avoid punishment, suitable less for knights than for the dregs of Westeros. These poor men are salvaged from the dungeons, or are disgraced nobles, bastards, and even unwanted legitimate offspring of noblemen, encouraged to take the black, making many today's watch unhappy about being there. Those who come voluntarily are free to leave during any time of their training, but no man may leave after he has said his vows. Any deserters are sentenced to death. After taking the vows, the men of the watch cannot own any land, marry, or father any children. However, these days, many have looser interpretations of these rules, with many a watchman venturing off to the whorehouses in Molestown during the night. Men are also encouraged to sever any ties left with their families, if they are lucky enough to have one of note. Men of the Night's Watch are garbed in all black, a tradition that earned them the nickname Crows, particularly among the free folk. While many use this name in a negative way, but the Night's Watch has now adopted it for their own use. They are also commonly known as Black Brothers. Beneath the shadow of the wall, the Night's Watch raised 19 strongholds, though they are unlike any other castles in the Seven Kingdoms. They have no curtain wall or any defensive fortifications to protect them from attack from the south, as why would they, when the threats they face is from the north, with the wall itself being more than ample against any threat coming from there. The greatest and oldest of these strongholds is the Night Fort, which has been abandoned for the past 200 years. As the watch shrunk in size, the Night Fort's size made it too large and too costly to keep maintaining. Maesters who served at the Night Fort whilst it was still in use made it plain that the castle had been expanded upon many times over the years, and little remained of its original construction, save for some of its deepest vaults chiseled out of the rock beneath the castle's feet. There are rumours there exist tunnels beneath the Night Fort that pass beneath the wall and to the lands beyond. Over the thousands of years of its existence as the chief seat of the Night's Watch, the Night Fort has occurred many legends of its own. The oldest of these tales concerns the legendary Night's King, the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, who is alleged to have bedded a sorceress, pale as a corpse, and declared himself a king. For 13 years, the Night's King and his corpse queen ruled together before a king of winter Brandon the Breaker, in alliance with the king beyond the wall, Jormund, brought them down. Thereafter, he obliterated the Night King's very name from memory. In the Citadel, the Archmaesters largely dismissed these tales, though some allowed there may have been a Lord Commander who attempted to carve out a kingdom for himself in the earliest days of the Watch. Some suggest perhaps the Corpse Queen was a woman of the Barrowlands, a daughter of the Barrow King, who was then a power in his own right, and often associated with Graves. The Night King has been said to have been variously a Bolton, Woodfoot, an Umber, a Flint, a Norrie, and even in some cases a Stark, depending where the tale is told. Like all tales, it takes on the attributes that make it most appealing to those who tell it. The Night's Watch, which might well be called the first militant order in the Seven Kingdoms, for the first duty of its members is to defend the wall, and all are trained and armed to this end. The Night's Watch and its vows would become the inspiration of Queen Visenya Targaryen to form Aegon the Conqueror's very first Kingsguard. The stewards supply the watch with food, clothing, and all other things they need to make war. The builders tend to the wall and the castles, and lastly, the rangers venture into the wilds beyond to make war upon the wildlings. There are other smaller roles in the Watch too. Recruiters for the Night's Watch are called Wandering Crows, and travel the Seven Kingdoms, cleaning out dungeons and looking for men to recruit. The organisation also includes Septons, Maesters, and at Eastwatch by the Sea, Sailors. Because brothers come from throughout the Seven Kingdoms, or even Essos, there is an unspoken pact to not discuss politics or former loyalties. Leading them are the senior officers of the Watch, the chief of whom is the Lord Commander. He himself is appointed by election. The men of the Watch, each and every one of them, from the unlettered former poacher to the sons of great lords, will cast a vote for the man he believes should lead them. Once one man has the greater part of the votes, he will lead the Watch until his death. It's a custom that has largely served the Watch well, and efforts to subvert it, as when Lord Commander Ronsel Hightower attempted to leave the Watch to his bastard son some 500 years ago, have never lasted long. Sadly, the most important truth about the Night's Watch today is its decline. It may have once served a great purpose, but if the others ever did exist, they have not been seen in thousands of years, and are of no threat to men at the current time. It is said the wildlings beyond the wall are the danger the Night's Watch now face, yet only when there are kings beyond the wall have the wildlings ever truly presented a threat to the realms of men. Most of the time, the threats they pose are minimal. The vast expense in sustaining the wall and the men who man it has become increasingly intolerable. Only 3 of the castles of the Night's Watch are now manned, and the order is 10th of the size it was when Aegon and his sisters landed. Yet at this size, the Watch remains a burden to most of the lords of the Seven Kingdoms. Some argue, though, that the wall serves as a useful way of ridding the realm of murderers, rapers, poachers, and their ilk, whilst others question the wisdom of putting weapons in the hands of such and training them in the arts of war. In fact, throughout history, when large groups have been sent to the wall after acts of rebellion, these groups have again rebelled and tried to carve off kingdoms for themselves. It would be down to the Watch and the Lords of Winterfell to put the uprisings down. Wildling raids may rightly be considered more of a nuisance than a menace. Many wise men suggest there might even be a better way to deal with the wildlings, allowing the Lords of the North to extend their rule beyond the wall so they can drive the wildlings back. But the logistics of doing this are hard to comprehend. Only the fact that the Northmen themselves greatly honour the Watch has kept it functioning, and a great part of the food that keeps the Black Brothers of Castle Black, the Shadow Tower, and Eastwatch by the Sea from starving comes not from the gift, but from the yearly gifts the Northern Lords deliver to the wall, a token of their support. At the start of the main books, Jon Snow joins the Watch, and we really get to see the scale of their decline. But cold winds are rising in the north, and it remains to be seen if the crumbling Night's Watch has the manpower to shield the realms of men to still be the Watchers on the wall.